Chapter 1. Are psychedelic plants a shortcut to spiritual awakening? Over the past decade, interest in psychedelic plants has surged worldwide. Among people exploring spirituality, the subconscious mind, and personal growth. More and more are treating psilocybin, mushrooms, and ayahuasca as fast-track tools for awakening. Social media, documentaries, and spiritual podcasts are full of statements like, "I entered another dimension. I saw one of my past lives. Now I understand what it means to have no self." These experiences sound powerful, even profound, and they seem to suggest that these plants can unlock spiritual pathways. But the real question is this: do these experiences actually equal awakening? Or are they temporary disruptions in brain networks, creating exaggerated perception and irrational interpretation? If altered states are just the result of chemical shifts in the brain, how should we evaluate the so-called spiritual feeling that comes with them? More importantly, are these experiences sustainable? Are they reliable? Could they actually delay real growth rather than accelerate it? In this series, we'll examine these questions from multiple angles, starting with what psychedelics really are, the most common misconceptions, how they affect your perception, what neuroscience has uncovered, how to use them with clarity and caution. Chapter 2. What are psychedelic plants, really? And can the spiritual feelings they trigger be trusted? Before we talk about spiritual growth, let's get clear on the basics. What exactly are these so-called psychedelic plants? Do they actually help us get closer to awakening, or do they just temporarily knock our brains off track? There are three main types of plants people usually refer to. First, psilocybin mushrooms. Their active compound psilocybin gets converted into psilocin in the body. Psilocin interacts with the brain's serotonin system, causing intense shifts in perception, mood, and consciousness. Second, ayahuasca, a traditional herbal brew from South America. It contains DMT, a powerful hallucinogen. Normally, DMT would be broken down in the gut, but ayahuasca includes another plant that blocks that process, allowing the DMT to take effect when ingested. Third, certain types of cacti, like peyote and San Pedro, which contain mescaline, another compound known for producing strong sensory distortion and a sense of the mystical. Across many indigenous cultures, these plants have been used in rituals for divination, healing, or spiritual communication. But that doesn't mean they're a guarantee for real spiritual growth. There are a lot of common misunderstandings about these substances. Some say, "I took mushrooms and saw one of my past lives." Others say after drinking ayahuasca, "I became one with the universe." It might sound spiritual. Here's the reality. These experiences are often just temporary distortions caused by overstimulated neural activity. They don't necessarily mean you've accessed some higher dimension. More likely, your nervous system is operating in an unstable and unfiltered state. To put it bluntly, just because you saw the light doesn't mean you've awakened. And without enough preparation and understanding, these experiences can actually cause more confusion than clarity and, in some cases, send people further off course. Chapter 3. What do psychedelics actually do to the brain? Here's what science tells us. Many people describe the effects of mushrooms or ayahuasca as a kind of awakening. But from a neuroscience perspective, it's more like a temporary disruption in brain chemistry and a large-scale reconfiguration of neural networks. So, where exactly do these substances act in the brain? And why do they lead to experiences like seeing light, feeling oneness, or hearing the universe? Let's break it down clearly. Psilocybin and DMT both activate the brain's serotonin system. Specifically, they target the 5-HT2A receptor. This receptor normally helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite, and memory. But when overstimulated, it causes information in the brain to flow uncontrollably and rewire itself in unexpected ways. This process affects several key brain areas. First, the prefrontal cortex. This is your main decision-making center. When its activity is altered, your sense of judgment and reality becomes blurry. Second, the parietal cortex and limbic system. These control body awareness, emotional storage, and identity perception. When these areas shift, you might feel like your body has vanished or like you no longer exist. Third, the default mode network. This is the system that maintains your sense of self, your internal monologue, and your sense of time. Psychedelics suppress this network. That's why people report feeling like they've lost their ego or melted into the world around them. Next, what happens to brain connectivity? Under normal conditions, different brain regions communicate through stable and organized pathways. But during a psychedelic experience, that structure breaks down. Brain regions that don't normally talk to each other start forming new connections on the fly. Imagine a city where all the traffic lights go out and every road connects to every other road. That's what your brain is doing. The result is what people call spiritual insights, visions of sound or hearing colors. In research, this is called increased global connectivity. It can be directly observed in brain scans during psychedelic states. Now, let's look at brainwave changes. Studies show that after using psilocybin or DMT, alpha waves in the brain drop significantly. Alpha waves are usually linked to calm, clarity, and stability. When they're reduced, your brain becomes more open and hypersensitive, but also less organized. This is why people often feel both highly alert and deeply confused at the same time. Everything feels real, but nothing makes sense. It's not magic. It's what happens when your brain loses its natural filters. Every memory and stimulus gets pushed into your awareness at once. You're in a state of sensory overload. So what creates the so-called mystical feeling? The feeling comes from a combination of factors. You're not used to this kind of mixed input from your senses. Your sense of self is temporarily down. Your memories, emotions, and sensory data are all blending together. And if you came in with expectations about things like higher dimensions or spiritual realms, your brain will fill in those blanks. That doesn't mean you've awakened. It means your brain has entered a highly unstable mode. Chapter 4. What you experience in a psychedelic state, from perception to integration. In a psychedelic state, a flood of sensory and emotional information often comes to the surface. Many people describe this as a spiritual opening. But in reality, what's happening is that you've entered a non-ordinary state of consciousness. Your usual conscious mind becomes quiet. Your subconscious rises to the front. Emotions you've suppressed, traumas you haven't processed, conflicts you haven't resolved. All of it starts expressing itself through images, sounds, and mental scenes. These experiences aren't random. They're highly personal projections. And they're shaped by your personality structure, cultural background, belief system, and current life situation. 1. What might you see or feel? Visually, you might see repeating patterns, geometric shapes, strange animals, symbols, doors, tunnels, fire, light, or some kind of presence. Emotionally, you might feel sadness, anger, fear, love, a deep sense of comfort, or even complete emotional collapse. Your sense of time and body might distort. Some people feel like their body disappears. Some feel like time has stopped. Others describe crossed senses, where they see sound, hear color, or feel the air speaking to them. This blending of the senses is known in neuroscience as synesthesia. In spiritual traditions, there's a similar idea. For example, the Buddhist text Shurangama Sutra describes a practice called ear-based awareness. Guanyin, a key figure in this tradition, does not meditate by chanting or visualizing light. She begins by deeply listening. Through sound, she accesses the entire structure of consciousness. This is the principle of one sense opens the whole system. Synesthesia and this practice share something fundamental. Perception stops being divided. It becomes a single, deeper access point to awareness. 2. Do these experiences have meaning? Can they be tracked or interpreted? The experience itself is not the goal, it's a lead. If you keep seeing a certain totem, a sacred space, a tunnel, or a divine figure, ask yourself what it represents. Does it remind you of a stage in your life? If your session brings up intense emotions, or repeats a memory or relationship, there's a good chance it's your subconscious trying to release an unresolved emotional loop. These experiences can often be traced and understood, but only if you're willing to reflect on them after the fact. Not while it's happening, but later, through writing, speaking, and connecting it to the emotions and behavior patterns in your current life. 3. Types of experiences and how to respond to them. Calm experiences. If you feel relaxed, breathing is smooth, emotions are light, and you feel in sync with nature. This is a good state for deep meditation or positive affirmation work. Use it to integrate and rewire your inner patterns. Fear-based experiences. If you see darkness, strange imagery, or feel like you're falling or being attacked by a presence, stay focused on your breathing. Ground your body. Remind yourself that this is not something coming to get you. This is your fear becoming visible. Emotional release experiences. If you suddenly start crying, feel rage, or fall apart emotionally, don't suppress it. Let it out. Stay with the experience. Afterwards, write down what came up and revisit it later to understand where it came from. Cosmic insight experiences. If you feel like everything is one and you've just understood the meaning of the universe, don't rush to believe it. Record the insight. Then wait until you're fully grounded to evaluate whether it has real value in your daily life. Blank or blocked experiences. If you see nothing, feel confused, or sense no meaning, that's okay too. It could be your nervous system protecting you, or maybe it's just not the right time for deep access. Don't force it. Treat it as a rest period. 4. What can you actually do that adds real value? Subconscious reprogramming. In this state, your inner defenses are lowered. This is a good time to plant positive beliefs. Say things like, I allow myself to be loved. I can change. I am worthy of peace. If you say these while feeling them, the effect is much stronger than repeating them in daily life. Inner dialogue practice. You can engage directly with any image or presence that shows up. Ask it, who are you? What do you represent? Often what shows up is something you already know, just appearing in a symbolic form. Synesthetic focus training. If you experience sound turning into color or images carrying emotion, focus on one sense and go deeper into it. This is a powerful method for building integrated awareness. It can also help sharpen your perception in normal waking life. Symbol interpretation. After the experience, draw or write out what you saw. Then look at what's currently going on in your life and try to decode what those symbols might be pointing to, not for mystical meaning, but for practical insight. 5. Spiritual growth is not defined by what you see. One powerful experience does not equal growth. The real question is what you do afterwards. Have you changed the way you think? Have you adjusted how you act? Ask yourself, are you more emotionally stable? Are you less reactive? Are you more willing to face inner conflict? Are you showing more kindness and clearer boundaries in your actions? Or are you just chasing the next intense high? 6. What are the real risks of these states? Emotional overload with no integration can lead to mental confusion. Believing every vision is truth can create new fixations. Using psychedelics often and calling it practice can weaken your ability to stay present in daily life. Making major life decisions while in the experience can lead to regret and real-world consequences. These risks don't come from the plant. They come from a lack of guidance, reflection, and integration. Psychedelic state opens a door. Real spiritual growth is about what you do after you step through it. Chapter 5. Can psychedelics be used for spiritual practice? What's legit and what's misguided? Psychedelic substances can trigger intense shifts in consciousness, but that doesn't automatically make them tools for spiritual practice. And one experience is not the same as awakening. There's a clear line between meaningful use and common misuse. When is it reasonably appropriate to use psychedelics? You have a clear intention, not just curiosity or escape. You're trying to work through something internal, heal trauma, understand yourself better, not just try it and see what happens. The experience might be fascinating, but fascinating doesn't mean useful. You're in a safe environment with clear preparation. You're somewhere familiar, quiet, stable. You have someone experienced to guide or witness. You know what to expect before, during, and after. You're not just chasing a high. You have a plan for integration. The experience doesn't end when the visuals stop. You take time afterward to write, reflect, or speak with a therapist or spiritual facilitator. If you skip integration, the session is just an explosion. No structure, no takeaway. 2. What are the most common misuses? Using psychedelics as a shortcut to spirituality. This is not about opening your third eye or entering higher dimensions. It's just a temporary shift in awareness. It doesn't give you structure. You have to interpret the content yourself, digest it, act on it, Nothing gets handed to you. Frequent use. Some people think, if I do this every month, I'll evolve faster. In reality, it can overload your nervous system. Blur your sense of what's real, destabilize your emotions, create a new addiction to the state itself. You might stop trusting your normal, sober mind altogether, using it to make big decisions. Visions in this state are not reliable insights. They're the brain reprocessing data in distorted form. This is not the right time to make choices about your job, relationships, or money. Most people regret the decisions they made in that mindset. Creating a spiritual ego, thinking I saw what others haven't, so I'm more awakened. This is the classic trap. Spirituality isn't about what you saw. It's about whether you're honest with yourself and whether you've built better boundaries and empathy in real life. 3. What psychedelics cannot replace. They can't replace meditation or personal discipline. Meditation is active, repeatable, stable. Psychedelic experiences are not. You can't build lasting awareness with something that unstable. You can't replace therapy or inner work. These substances might bring trauma to the surface, but they won't resolve it for you. You still need clear, grounded reflection and support in waking life. They can't replace the work you need to do in relationships. Spiritual growth doesn't just happen in solitude. It happens in conflict, tension, and intimacy with other people. How you deal with your partner, parents, or friends is the real training ground. A trip won't teach you how to show up with maturity. 4. If you choose to use them, do these 4 things. Set an intention. Not, I want to see something, but I want to understand a part of myself better. Create time and space. Keep the setting private, clean, and free from distractions. No tasks, no impulsive decisions. Have someone with you. Preferably someone calm, experienced, and non-directive. Prepare tools for integration. Keep a journal. Record your voice. Draw. Move your body. Talk to someone who understands. The first week after the session is the most important. 5. Who should avoid psychedelics? People with a family history of severe anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. Anyone currently in a volatile emotional state or with a risk of losing control. People who are urgently trying to change their destiny or escape reality. Artists or creators looking to unlock superpowers or magical inspiration. Anyone who has developed a dependency or dissociation from past use. 6. Where does real practice lead back to? Every tool eventually leads you back to your ordinary conscious self. Spiritual practice is not about how far you can drift. It's about whether you are willing to stay. Practice consistently. Face yourself. Change your habits. Live more honestly. If you've already used psychedelics or are considering it, treat this content as a mental safety check. Psychedelics are not a required part of spiritual development. They're also not inherently dangerous. What matters is your intention, your preparation, how you use them, and how well you process what comes afterward. This episode isn't about promoting or rejecting anything. It's about offering a clearer, more grounded framework for thinking. If you've had experiences with this and want to share, leave a comment. Don't just say you met God. Tell us what you did afterwards. How it changed you. That's the part that counts. If this helped you, consider liking the video or sending it to someone who's curious about the topic. And if you want more content on spirituality, consciousness, and psychological integration, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep digging into the real stuff without the mystic hype. Next episode, we'll talk about what comes after the experience. How do you actually integrate it? How do you turn it into part of your life? I'll see you in the next one.